right, so now coming on the show, we have U.S. men's national team and Chicago Fire defender Jonathan Bornstein. How's it going, man?
Thank you again for having me on your podcast. Excited to be here and excited to talk soccer. And, let's do it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks for coming on. How have you liked Chicago since you signed for the Fire last July? Chicago's a great city.
Amazing city. My family and I were really enjoying being here. As you can see behind me, some of the city, we actually just moved a little bit more downtown. We were on the south side before for the first year. And now we're really enjoying this area, really enjoying, playing for the team. And yeah, just we're really excited to get to know the city a little bit more once all the COVID stuff kind of passes out. So hopefully that happens soon and we can even get to know Chicago better. So
Yep. Well, I saw you guys whipped up on FC Cincinnati last week on Tuesday. Great win. And then tough loss to NYCFC on Saturday, though.
A little up and down like that for us for a little bit. Even in the tournament, that was kind of how it went. But I think the team's been playing really well. Giving up some easy goals, but I think we can easily fix the things that we're doing wrong. But I see the team growing each week, and we're training extremely hard. So hopefully, we go again against Cincinnati this weekend, and hopefully, or in 2 days. So yeah, we'll be working hard. Going to continue to try and win every game as best we can.
And how was the MLS's back tournament? That had to be an interesting experience.
Definitely interesting. I thought in general, it was a great way to get soccer back in the United States for the MLS. I think all the players were extremely excited about the tournament, and I think it went over with flying colors at the end. There was a bit of a hiccup at the beginning with a few teams, but I think in general, everyone felt safe. Me personally, I never felt like we were ever being exposed to anything that we didn't want to be, exposed to. The games were good. The atmosphere was good. Obviously, it was like a little mini preseason for a lot of us, where we were in the hotel training games. But I feel like it really was a great way to get everything started, and now we find ourselves, actually playing in home stadiums and other team stadiums. So I think it was a good transitional way to get us all back together. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
I saw you scored against New England back in March, right before COVID put an end to the season. So congrats on that. A little flicked header to the back post. Great goal.
Thank you. Yeah, it was kind of found myself in the right spot at the right time there. Not always where I find myself, on attacks for the team, but my forward days from college and beginning year and Chivas USA came back very quickly, being in the box and just getting my head on that little crust. So it felt good to score for the team. Even better to get our first point for the season. And definitely, at that moment, COVID still wasn't like this thing that we were all worried about. So literally, it happened a few days later, where it's like, oh, basketball shut down, MLS shut down. What's going to happen next? So it was a good way to go out before COVID hit.
Yeah. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Jonathan. I know you're very busy, so it means a lot. Really excited to get into your career, and we're going to hit on your club career to start, and then after that, we'll transition over to your time with the national team afterwards. You grew up in Southern California, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I was born in Torrance, and then I moved when I was young to Los Alamitos, which is where I grew up. A big part of the time.
Right. You built up a pretty solid soccer resume in your youth. Played all 4 years at Los Alamitos High School, where you were the MVP of the Sunset League, first team All-County, and won a California Interscholastic Federation Championship, which isn't the same thing as a state championship, right?
It wasn't, because they've got Northern California and Southern California. And at that time, we didn't play against the northern section, of California. So basically that was us winning there's division, the CIA Division II championship, which is that's as high as it went for us. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't get another opportunity to do anything else.
Right.
So
And California is such a big
in
state.
other
I guess they have to do
exactly.
that.
So we won half the state.
Yeah, half state championship.
Exactly.
And you also played club soccer for the Irvine Strikers, won the Golden Boot as you led the team to the 2002 U17 National Championship. I mean, just a ton of success. By this time, you had to have been getting a ton of looks from colleges, were you not?
You would think, right? You would think I would have been getting some looks by colleges, but unfortunately, I was getting no looks from colleges. You know, that was a pretty late bloomer, to be honest. Like those things happened very close to one another. And I think before that, like that was what, in 2000, 2001, 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And so before that, I was playing in like a silver club team. At my high school, you know, I was just coming up. So my junior and senior year were extremely important for me. It's kind of when I got my license, to be honest. It was really important because whereas before I couldn't drive very far because my dad was always working, always had to get a ride by like the team coach or someone close to me, you know, to kind of be playing anywhere. When I got my license, I could kind of branch out, and I went and tried out for the Irvine Strikers, who were the best team pretty much in the state, in the nation, to be honest. Like they were the best team our age group. So when I went and tried out for them, you know, I got on, and then very quickly my game started rising to a new level. And that's also at the same time when high school, I got to varsity, started playing extremely well. And so, yeah, that was a big turning point for me. But even before that, you know, my senior year was really a breakout year. So a lot of the colleges were already recruiting when you're a junior, and when, you know, a lot of these teams were on, you know, national championship runs or whatever. They were going far in the tournament for club soccer when people were juniors. And so I had to kind of wait to my senior year to do all that kind of stuff. Sent out a lot of letters, but really got no responses. And yeah, it was tough for me. But so, I mean, that kind of maybe leads into your next one for me going to a Division II Cal Poly Pomona school. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you use the
Right. Yeah. So, and yeah,
the run in there.
That was literally what I was about to ask,
Yeah.
and how you started playing Cal Poly Pomona.
Pomona.
Pomona, yeah, for 2 years. And why did you choose?
You ever heard of it? You ever heard of it?
I actually haven't heard of it.
I figured not. So that's funny.
I mean, how's the
Why did I
campus? Like, was the school? Was it a good school? Like, pretty. I mean, I'm sure it's beautiful being in California.
Yeah, no, it's a polytechnic school, so it's a sister school of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo,
Mm-hmm.
which you probably have heard of. It's
Right.
a little bit more popular. Yeah, so it's like just the sister school of that school. It's found in Pomona, which is in Southern California. Probably like an hour, not even 45 minutes from where I grew up. So, I mean, it was close enough to where like I was still pretty much at home. You know, I lived on campus and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a small Division II school who now has actually like become a powerhouse in Division II soccer. So they've really turned that program around since 2002 and 3 when when I was there. But you know, they've gotten a lot of big names going there and stuff. But yeah, I found myself there because really, like I said, I wasn't very highly recruited. You know, when I remember going to an Irvine Strikers college night where the parents of the kids all went and like kind of found out how to get their kids recruited by schools and what's the process. And so I actually attended that for myself because, like I said, my dad was, you know, working, but just they didn't have the time to be going to do that. And so I remember they gave us a book that was like this thick and had every college coach and every school in the book. And I remember just going through and being like, all right, I can go to this school probably, yeah, all in California, like local UC Irvine, Cal Poly Pomona, the San Diego schools, you know, UCLA, Stanford, all those. Like I wrote letters to every single coach, or emails, you know, emailed the letter to coach, every single coach, and literally like no one responded. And I was like, okay, cool, like that's no worries. And Cal Poly Pomona had just gotten a new coach with Paul Caligiuri, and so they actually wrote me an email, and so they invited me to come to a visit. I went on a visit with my dad. He actually went with me, and they were like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 other players with their families there at that same time. And they kind of took us on a tour of the campus, and then we each got to sit down with Paul Caligiuri and kind of talk things out, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And they, you know, at that time, I don't even know if he knew who I like really was. But then he kind of like started to figure it out, and I was always like, "Oh, you got to come see me play in my high school games, blah blah, all this stuff." And he never went, and I was like, "Oh man, come on!" And so he finally told me, he's like, "Look, if you guys make it to the final, I'll come to the final." And so we made it to the final of CIF, and he came and he watched us win. And then they offered me like whatever type of scholarship they could have. It was very little, but still something, you know. And so then I decided to go there, and had some good seasons there, to be honest, before transferring to UCLA eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you won the California Athletic Association Freshman of the Year. And then sophomore year, I saw you were part of the academic All-American team with a 3.3 GPA. You're a smart dude. What was your major?
Well, I've changed so many times while I was in college, but because all I wanted to do was play soccer, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what can I do? Study to play soccer. No, but my freshman year I was like engineering, like very open engineering, and then I was like, maybe it's gonna be too hard next season, so I switched to a business before having to switch to sociology at UCLA because there was no undergrad business school. So yeah, so kind of bounced around there for a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, it really doesn't even, you know, when you're in those lower division classes as a freshman and sophomore, your major doesn't even really matter because you're taking the core classes are the same relatively. So.
Exactly. So I was trying to like take all the classes that were similar for majors the first couple years, trying to just kind of figure out what I wanted to do if soccer didn't work out. Trying to find a niche there. But like I said, you know, I tried, you know, I really wanted to play soccer. That's all I've really ever wanted to do. But I never really like thought about going pro, you know, like it was always like, oh, I'm having so much fun in the moment. I'm loving what I'm doing. Let's just keep it going. So that's kind of, it didn't really all sink in until my senior year at UCLA. But they're like, oh, what do you want to do after college? I'm like, maybe I'll go pro.
Yeah.
Like, let's try it. Like, maybe I'm good enough. So yeah. That's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, and despite only playing 2 years at Cal Poly Pomona, you finished your time there ranked second in assists, third in points, and fifth in goals, which is crazy. What do you remember most about your time with the Broncos?
Oh man, I mean, this like aside from all the memories with all my teammates who were amazing guys, and we have, you know, great stories. To be honest, just like being a young kid there and performing so well. I mean, like I had, you know, we went in, we had all these seniors and juniors who at the beginning were looking at me like, who's this skinny little short super? I have to explain that. I was probably like, I got in there when I was 17, and I was probably 5'5", 120 pounds, to be honest. Like I was literally like the smallest dude. And so anyone who's probably going to listen to this, if they were at Cal Poly in that time, they're like, yeah, it's so right. He was so small and so short, but they'll say, oh, but he can move for sure, very well on the field and stuff. And then I had like a growth spurt within that time where I grew like to where I am today, where it's 5'9", and I'm still 120, you know, literally like a little stick. And then started putting on weight. And my second season, I remember being like probably a little bit like 5'9", 140, you know, a lot better. And so, yeah, it was just being that kid coming in where no one thought he was going to do anything and having quite a bit of success. That's probably like my best time there. Just growing as a person and growing as a player in those 2 years there. It was a good time.
Yep. You then transferred to UCLA before the 2004 season. And what was your reason for transferring? Did you just want to play at a higher level?
Yeah. So when I actually went and met with Paul Caligiuri that day on the first day of the recruiting trip, I was sitting there with him and my dad, and he asked me like, "What are your aspirations?" And with soccer, and I said, "You know, I would love to go pro, but you know, I don't know how to get there or anything." And he told me, "Okay, well, if you want to go pro, then we got to get you to UCLA." And so those were his words, and so that became like my plan based on what he thought I needed to do to get there. And so after my first season, we actually played against UCLA, who he had set that up because he knew the coach there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the time it was Tom Fitzgerald, who passed away,
Yep.
right after that, I believe. And so Jorge Salcedo had taken over the job. But then I got hurt against Navy the day before we were going to play UCLA. Yeah, I was like feeling so good. I was balling. The ball came over my shoulder, just like swung to like hit it far post, like. And as I was swinging, the defender just had his foot out, and I just shattered my ankle on this guy's foot. And I was like, my ankle was the size of a grapefruit or whatever, and I couldn't do anything the next day, and I was so like devastated, to be honest, because I was only looking forward to the UCLA game. It was going to be like pretty much my tryout, just to get there and show them, okay, you guys kind of set this game up so that I could play there next season, And so when I didn't play, I had no chance of going, and they were like, oh, well, we'll check it out. We'll check him out next season and see where it goes from there. And so I ended up having a transfer after my second season. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of the way that I got there, and the reason that I kind of wanted to go there was just Paul's guidance and his advice on how he thought I needed my road to make it to the professional ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in that 2004 season, you played in all 20 games, making 9 starts. And then the following season, in 2005, you started all 20 games and were named in the second team All Pac-10. So pretty successful time there as well. But I know you and Benny Feilhaber were roommates at UCLA, but did you guys know each other in your youth soccer days before that?
Team that I went to for Irvine Strikers, he was already a part of that team.
Okay.
And so I joined his team. He likes to think of it as I joined his team, and then it became my team. But
of course.
Yeah, no, it was our team. We definitely had a lot of success there together. And, it's crazy to think that I was able – I think that actually helped me to get to UCLA also, because when Benny went there, I think he even like talked to the coach about me when I showed interest in coming to UCLA as a transfer. Benny was there his freshman year, so and his sophomore year. So yeah, I was going to be coming in as a junior.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to be a sophomore that season, and so I think I'm almost positive he put in a good word for me. But yeah, it was really cool being able to join back up with a guy who I had a lot of success with at club soccer, and now we were going to be playing at UCLA. Obviously one of the top colleges in the nation.
Mm-hmm. Well, after college, you were drafted by Chivas USA in the 4th round of the 2006 MLS Super Draft. And Bob Bradley was the coach at that time, wasn't he?
He had just joined on after the first season of Chivas USA in the MLS. I don't know if you remember, but Chivas didn't do so well in their first season with the MLS. I think they won only 3 games that entire season. And so that idea of bringing in a really experienced coach to the team to kind of build the brand of Chivas is what happened. And they brought in Bob Bradley in 2006.
Got it.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he converted you to left back in your first season, correct? After having playing forward your whole life.
Predominantly played attacking positions, except for one coach who put me at left back when I was like 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually the one who played me there first. He likes to say whenever he's actually my accountant still. So
oh, really? No way.
he's still like, I'm the one who had that idea before Bob. I've never actually spoken that story before, but yeah, it was time. My accountant was the one who did it. Yeah, so besides that little anecdote, I played in college. I played at forward and like left mid, attacking mid spots. And so, yeah, when I went in with Chivas USA, my tryout, obviously, I went to the Chivas Combine. They had me playing at forward and left mid and a little bit of center mid. And I thought I did well at those spots. And that's probably what, gave them the idea of picking me up in the draft. But very quickly, Bob called me aside. He's like, we think you could be a very good left fullback. And so I was up for the challenge, and I wanted to do whatever I was going to have to do to get onto the field, because obviously playing as a forward or an outside mid was going to be a lot tougher to get on the field with the players we had. I doubt I was going to be playing ahead of Ante Razov or Paco Palencia, both international stars who have done really well for themselves. And so when they said left back, I said, hey, let's do it. If it can get me on the field as a starter, and it kind of worked. I went through all the preseason like that, did really well in the preseason games, and when the first game against Real Salt Lake came around for the 2006 season, I was on the field. Yeah, so that felt really good.
How would you describe yourself as a player? If you were preparing a scouting report on you, what would it say?
I used to like to think of myself as versatile. That was definitely one of the top qualities that I had, because if you go back to that first season, although I did play the majority of it as a left fullback, I did play 5 games as a forward, where I scored 6 of those goals that I scored that first season. I got filled in at right back a few times, left mid like a handful of times. So that was always like my top quality. I was like, I can play wherever you need me to play at any time, just to keep myself on the field. I'd also say, although I'm 35 now, maybe not as fast as I used to be. I was pretty fast back in my heyday. And then I also like to think of myself as a smart player who can read the game well. So good. Yeah, so with those things kind of come all the other things that you could talk about, but just a few that I like to describe myself with.
Of course, and that certainly, all of those qualities certainly helped you win the MLS Rookie of the Year. How would you describe that first season as a professional soccer player? You must have been oozing with confidence by the end of that first season.
Yeah, for sure. I remember going into preseason, just not even thinking about being playing on the field. A lot of fourth rounded, draft picks are not always the ones who make it in this league. It's more of the first rounders who get a lot of spotlight. I came into the league. I was going to be when I signed the contract, I was on reserve minimum, so that was going to be like $16,000 in 2006. And I remember Bob calling me into his office just like a week and a half before the first game of the season, and he was like, "Look, I'm gonna bump you up to the full roster, so you'll be making a big $28,000 league minimum in 2006." So that seemed like a lot of money to me at the time, and just I was gonna be able to be doing what I love, so it wasn't really about the paycheck. But so yeah, like I said, so I was very unsure of how it was all gonna go. Get to the first game, get my first start. I felt like I played well, and I just kind of like, okay, this is what it's like. This is how it's going to be. Went through that season kind of just flying, whenever I got the chance to play forward, I tried to score, putting back at left back. Don't let anyone beat me. Just trying to get better every day and do my job as well as I could. And so finishing that year, obviously winning Rookie of the Year and getting my first call to the national team immediately after that, I just tried to ride that wave, ride that momentum, and keep it going for as long as I could. But yeah, definitely after that first season, my confidence was high, and I just wanted to keep it going and keep growing as a person and as a player too.
The following season in 2007, you were an MLS All-Star and named to the MLS Best 11. In that season in 2007, were you primarily playing as a fullback, or were you still kind of just playing wherever Bob wanted you to?
So after the 2006 season, Bob actually got the national team job. So okay. he left Chivas USA, and Preki actually took over. He was our assistant coach. He kind of knew all the team, and they made him head coach immediately. But I predominantly played left fullback, I believe, 2007, and I think even some center back was, because I remember there was one season, it was either 2007 or 2008, where I think it's 2008, where I played almost the entire season at center back. When Ante Jazic actually joined the team, and he played left back, and I played almost the entire time at center back. But yeah, so it was more. Preki kept me more kind of confined to left back, but he did put me up a few times to forward. I remember one Toronto game where we were losing at halftime, and he stuck me at forward. 10 minutes in, I scored, and he put me right back to left fullback. I was like, why don't you just leave me up here, man? It was like, no, but yeah, that was kind of a crazy story. They're like, we needed a goal. Okay, Bornstein, go up front. Got the goal, right back to left back. I was really bummed.
That's hilarious. Well, in
Yeah.
2000, in 2008, you once again were an MLS All-Star, and I saw that summer, Maccabi Tel Aviv were very interested in signing you. I heard that they offered Chivas $750,000 and offered to increase your salary to $500,000, but you turned it down. Why was that?
I mean, some of those details aren't exactly true. Like it was there that like the offer was there. I didn't at the time, like they didn't even really present the offer like formally or anything. So I think all those numbers have kind of been written in. I'm not sure where you got the information, but kind of all been speculation over the years. But yeah, I mean, it was good. I went I was hurt at the time. I was recovering from I had really bad bone spurs in my left ankle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had gotten them cleared out in college one time, and then they kind of came back. And so I tried to do it over that winter break that we get from November to January or whatever. So, so within that time, I got my ankle cleared out. Maccabi Tel Aviv was like, "Hey, let's bring you over," and I was like, "Okay, well, I'm just recovering, so why not?" It was like a free trip pretty much to Israel.
Right.
And I really love Israel as a country. I played there in the Maccabi games.
Yep.
And so I said, yeah, let's do it. I'll go check out the club just to see what it's like. I didn't really consciously think of the impact it was going to have by me going over there and just pretty much visiting. I thought I was like, okay, I'm free to do that. I didn't even really tell my agents and just went. They kind of contacted me and I just went. Nobody even knew I went. And so, yeah, I got over there. And little did I know, Benny Feilhaber was there also, dude. And I didn't even know he was going to be there. And I don't think he knew I was going to be there. And we're in the hotel, and I'm like, Benny, what are you doing here, man? And so it's like, then it kind of blew up just because, obviously two of national team players are there visiting. And then I got a call from Bob, and he's like, oh, yeah, what are you doing over there? And so yeah, I just didn't know, what happened with that whole situation. And then once that happened, it was like, okay, probably not going to be going to this team, but, thank you for, and I got to see the club, see how, what a different club looked like. I thought it was a good experience for myself. But in the end, it wasn't the right situation at that time. And so I just decided not to kind of pursue it further once everything was set on table.
Got it. And I also saw that year in 2008, you were inducted into the Southern California Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. How special of a moment was that for you? Seems like a really special honor.
Yeah, it was actually a great honor. I grew up Jewish. My grandparents are actually Orthodox Jewish, and so I invited them to the gala and to the award ceremony and everything.
Yep.
They still talk about it to this day, and it's such a great moment for all of my family and everything. Just because obviously coming from their past, my great grandma leaving Hungary, and yeah, they just are very very appreciative whenever can get an honor as a Jewish athlete. So yeah, it was great to be inducted into the Southern California Jewish Hall of Fame. I never expected that. I never even knew there was an only Jewish sports Hall of Fame for only Jewish athletes, which at that time, and then when it happened, it was super exciting.
Yeah, and in 2009, you were the Chivas Defender of the Year. And did you serve as captain that season, or was that not until 2010?
So Sasha Kleshchin and myself, we were both kind of there as captain, and sometimes him, sometimes myself. And then Yeah, there was a few games where I was captain, but yeah, I wasn't like predominantly like the captain of
Got it.
Chivas USA. So yeah.
And then, yeah, over your 4 years with Chivas, you made a whopping 133 appearances before signing for Chivas in the Mexican League. Why did you decide to leave the MLS?
I mean, to be honest, I just wanted like to try something new. Um, you know, I think I was having success with the national team. My contract was going to be up in 2000, like right after the World Cup,
Mhm.
and I wanted to try something new. I wanted to grow as a person, as a player. Uh, you know, I had a few offers. I mean, we were trying to get offers from Europe to go there. We were approached from a few Mexican clubs, and then Tigres just seemed like the best one. I thought, you know, I am Mexican and I could get my Mexican passport at that time. I didn't have it when, you know, all the negotiations were going on, but I knew because my mom was born in Mexico that I could get my passport and play there as a Mexican player. And so that was kind of it. I wanted to like get to know that side of my culture. You know, I grew up in Southern California, which has a lot of Latin people, a lot of Mexican people. But if you're not speaking Spanish and you're not really aware of all the people there, then you're like American growing up in Los Angeles. I mean,
Right.
like you don't even see it, you don't even hear it. It wasn't really until I learned Spanish that I actually realized how many people speak Spanish in Southern California. It's crazy. I grew up not even hearing Spanish. I feel like it was like, oh yeah, learned it in school a little bit, you know, Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3.
Mhm.
But I mean, I was just oblivious to the fact that it's so profound in even in the United States
Yeah.
now that I speak it. And so that was kind of why I wanted to do it. I wanted to learn Spanish. I wanted to get to know the culture. I wanted to have success in the Mexican League, and not many Americans have had a lot of success
Yep.
there, especially, you know, before you know, there's been a lot of players who've gone recently, but before that weren't very many. So for those reasons, I kind of wanted to go to Mexico, and Tigres was the spot that I found myself at. Mhm.
And what was your reaction when Chivas USA folded in 2014? I mean, were you surprised, disappointed? Was that something that you saw coming?
I mean, kind of. I mean, I'm not. I mean, you can say like, yeah, kind of. You can look back and kind of think about things that happened
Yeah.
while I was there. But I didn't know that they were gonna fold. I always thought they were gonna like finally find their own stadium and
Yep.
finally get their own identity, like away from the Galaxy. Um, and then the longer that didn't happen, it was like, okay, this is probably not gonna work. And then being in Mexico, watching it from afar, you just kept seeing like attendance go down, and them not
Mm.
look like they weren't dedicating as much time to the club and stuff. So yeah, I was really bummed to see that they folded. Obviously, because it was the only place that I had played in the MLS. You know,
Yep.
and it's like, so what happens to all those, you know, those games and all those stats and, you know, everything that goes along with having played on a team? Like, there's just like an asterisk next to it, like only 2005 to 2014. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, it kind of gets forgotten. But hopefully, you know, having come back now to Chicago, yeah, I can keep talking about Chivas USA and keep that idea alive that they were once a good quality side in the MLS. Mm-hmm.
For sure. And what's the main difference, in your opinion, between the MLS and the Mexican League?
That question a lot of times over the years. Um, that answer has actually kind of changed as time's gone on, because I feel like in 2010, when I was leaving the MLS and going into the Mexican League, I felt like the difference was a lot bigger between the leagues. I felt that the Mexican League was a lot more technical, a lot more tactical, whereas like soccer here in America was a lot more like gritty, grindy, like
Direct. Yeah.
just yeah, direct, exactly. And so now that I've come back and now I'm playing in the league again, I feel like the MLS has changed. And so they've kind of caught up to this technical, tactical soccer that, you see kind of all over the world. And you're seeing a lot higher quality soccer being played nowadays. And so the differences have really just diminished. And, you can even see it between the international competitions in like CONCACAF Champions Cup. Whereas before, the Mexican clubs were always dominating. All 4 teams would be in semifinals. Now, recently, you've been seeing like it's 2-2, and in the finals, it's so close. And so, yeah, you can definitely see that gap being bridged between the level of play nowadays rather than when I left. So it's kind of the biggest difference. I mean, I don't know if I answered your question exactly, but the differences are very, very small nowadays. But before, it was a lot bigger.
Right, and that's just a testament to the MLS growing.
It's grown. When I left, or when I started, there was only 12 teams,
Right.
And now coming back into the league, there's 26 teams, going to be 28, and then probably 30. So, yeah, I mean, just in sheer numbers, it's grown. And then also bringing in bigger players, having a lot more interest from, South American players, Europeans coming over. And then obviously like the American soccer player too, getting a lot better training from a young age has helped a lot too. So yeah, it's a testament to the MLS for sure.
Well, you made 128 appearances in Mexico between 2011 and 2018, won the Liga MX championship in your first season. In the 2016-17 season, you won the Copa MX and Supercopa titles. Again, super successful. But overall, how was your experience playing in Mexico? I mean, anything really stand out in your memories?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing were my like downfalls. I had come in 2010 after World Cup, and then got to Tigres, and honestly, I didn't know what I was getting into. I think it was like a whole new culture, whole new language. Soccer was the number one sport where it's like all they talk about all day long is soccer, football. And so I didn't know what I was getting into. I was like this naive young American who just thought soccer was, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I could tell you a bunch of stories of like how naive about soccer that I was growing up as a young kid in like the 90s in America. Just there wasn't soccer, I mean, AYSO and club, but on TV there was no soccer. And so like I have a funny story that my first Champions League game that I ever watched, that I ever even knew Champions League existed, was when I was a freshman in college. I mean, I'm like walking through my dorm room and I hear these guys screaming their heads off in another room. And so I poke my head in. I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, you play for the soccer team. Like, come in, you got to be watching this. And I don't even remember the exact teams, but I remember like a red and a blue team. So it's probably Liverpool, Chelsea, in like 2006. And so I'm like, what is this? They're like, dude, it's Champions League. And I'm like, I had no idea. You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm like, oh, this is all right. And it was like such a good level of soccer. And I mean, come on, I didn't grow up watching. I didn't have it on TV. I didn't even know it was there. So anyway, so I get to Mexico and I have that kind of mentality, it's like, okay, it's soccer, but no, it's like life. It's blood. It's like culture there. And so it was great to really be in that and learn it, but it definitely affected my game. And I wasn't playing as well for those first couple seasons. And so, not finding a lot of playing time at the club. The coach had kind of tried to convert me to a defensive center mid. And to be honest, I wasn't doing the greatest job at it. And finally, my third season, he finally started training me again at left fullback. So I got a few more games that season, but then I was able to finally go on loan and get a little bit more playing time with Querétaro, and then they finally bought me. And so, but at the beginning, it was really tough. And I think I grew as a person more than anything, being away from my family, not having a support system there. Although those things were all hard, it also made me a lot more, strong and better in terms of just being a better person, better man. So I like to say that just because it really has helped me grow. And I feel like now that I have my family and have my daughters and my wife and everything, I can hopefully teach them about all those things that I've learned, especially through the hard times. And that's probably that's not the best time, but it's been the most, the thing that's taught me the most throughout my career.
Absolutely. Well, following your 8 years there in Mexico, you then signed for Maccabi Netanya in the Israeli League prior to the 2018-19 season, where you made 36 appearances and 35 starts. Now, what drove you to leave Mexico and head overseas over there? You know, I mean, was it kind of similar to leaving the MLS and just wanting to experience a new culture and play somewhere else? And what was it like playing in Israel?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like that, to be going for a new experience, but it was kind of not. Also, the MLS, or not the MLS, the Mexican Federation, and the players, like the Mexican players, they were in these talks where there were really too many foreigners in the league, from Argentina, Brazil, America, that were all getting naturalized as Mexican citizens.
Oh,
And so every team in Liga MX was almost starting full rosters of non-Mexican players.
huh.
And so they got into this really big, not argument, but just a discussion of how we can start getting more Mexican players into the league again, or at least into the teams. And so they changed the rules of being a foreign player or not being a foreign player. Whereas before it was anyone who wasn't a naturalized citizen of Mexico. They changed it to anyone born in Mexico was a Mexican. Anyone born outside Mexico now became a foreign player.
Oh,
And although I was born as a Mexican just outside Mexico, I was considered in that group of born outside Mexico, as a foreigner, which I always thought was a little bit unconstitutional, just because, like, how can I get my Mexican passport from the government, from the country, and then you consider me as a foreigner if I was born
right. What?
Mexican? Like, it made no sense to me. And anyway, so then eventually you were only allowed to play 8. I think you could have like 13 foreigners on a roster, but you had to have like 9 Mexicans and 9 foreigners on the 18. And it was, I think maybe the first year was like 10 and 8, and then it was 9 and 9, and then it was 8 foreigners, whatever, 10. I don't remember the exact numbers, but so that's kind of what happened. And
Yeah.
kind of my chances there were diminished just because, I wasn't playing with the national team anymore. I'm a foreigner now, taking up a spot where they want to bring in maybe another foreigner who's a forward. So it got more difficult. And that's kind of the reason that I left, just because they'll change rules and I kind of got the long end of the stick, or the short end of the stick. And so, yeah, that's kind of why I went to Israel. The opportunity came up. I remembered my time of going over there to visit Tel Aviv, and also just playing in Israel with the Maccabi games, Maccabiya. And we spoke long and hard, my wife and I, and we decided, let's go for a new challenge and go live in Israel and play in Israel for at least one season, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it was great.
And what was it like playing in the Israeli League? And can you talk a little bit about the role of soccer in the Israeli culture?
Yeah, so I'll do the first one. The Israeli League was great. I didn't really know what to expect going in, but the level of play there was very high. Obviously, the players technically very gifted. You got some guys who are, they'd like to think of themselves as Europeans, in the style of soccer that they play, only because they do play the Euros but they're not in Europe. But they do participate in all that. So they really have this strong sense of like European as their soccer, at least. And, I was surprised at how good at least some of the teams were. You have about 5 teams who are at a really top level, maybe 6. And then the other, 8 teams or 7 teams a little bit lower.
Right.
But in general terms, I think it's very competitive. And again, it helped me grow very, very, like, in great leaps and bounds.
Right.
Playing in that league against the players who were over there. So, and then the second part, just remind me what the question was.
Just talking about the role of soccer in the Israeli culture.
Yeah, so like Mexico, where it's ingrained in the culture, I think in Israel it is also definitely ingrained in their culture. I mean, they've got beach soccer courts all over the beaches right there in Tel Aviv and Netanya up to Haifa. which, you know, it's a little bit different, but soccer's played on the beach, it's played on in the streets. They, you know, love their teams. They're big followings for at least, you know, Tel Aviv and Haifa, Netanya, Beersheba, and then also up in the more inland with like Renana, and even up north with Kiryat Shmona. So yeah, I mean, it's not a very big country, and you have first division, second division, third division. I mean, you've got probably 60 teams within a country that's 5 hours driving north and south and two and a
My
half
God.
hours driving east and west. So yeah, so if that says anything, it's definitely in their culture, and you know, it's great to see that. So
For sure.
and culture in general there is a little bit different, just because of how Jewish the religion as well as like the culture is so ingrained into everyday life. You know, they follow the Sabbath, which every like time the Sabbath comes around, the whole country pretty much just shuts down. You know, all the supermarkets, everything closes from when the first or the third star is in the sky, I believe Friday night, until Saturday when the third star is in the sky on Saturday night. So from that time, you know, people aren't driving, people aren't going out. You know, it's really different. And for us who got there not knowing about all that, we would like leave Friday night to go to the supermarket, and it's like, where's everybody?
No one around.
Yeah, like, whoa, what are we doing wrong here? You almost feel like, something happened. No one told me, and then but you just forget, and then you get used to it, and then it becomes part of your everyday life. And you know, it's pretty cool to see everyone just rest on Saturday, which was really cool. You see everyone walking around with their kids and their families and going to the beach, but instead of driving there, they all walk locally. So
Yep.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Sounds like an amazing place. It's somewhere that I want to go to at some point just to experience that. But now you are back in the MLS with the Chicago Fire, and I saw that you recently signed a contract extension, which keeps you at the club until at least 2021. So congrats on that. Are you glad to be back in the States after having been gone for so long?
You know, at the beginning, it was a tough decision because in Israel with Maccabi Netanya, my contract actually got automatically renewed.
Oh.
And so, yeah, for 2020,
Mm-hmm.
for this season, no, for 2020. So, you know, I was like, okay, well, I have, you know, I'm really happy with my team there in Netanya. But then Pauno, he had been calling me like over a long period of time. So it all happened basically in 2019 in January, when they had told me, oh, we want to bring you in for the new season, the 2019 season. But at that time, my team in Netanya, we were in like third place in the league, still battling for like a Europa League qualifying spot. We were still in the cup, and the cup is extremely important to the fans and to the club, and we were still in that. And so the club was like, no way. When we brought it to them, they said, no way, we're letting you leave. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward like that. So then January happened. Then I didn't hear anything about Chicago, just because the club had said, yeah, can't do anything.
Yeah.
Then fast forward to May, and literally it all happened so quick, because we were in the cup final. We were winning 1-0 in the 87th minute. Got scored on, went to overtime, lost in penalties. If we had won that, it would have been crazy, because the club hadn't won the cup in like 50 years.
Oh.
The cup final was the greatest atmosphere. I mean, it was crazy, to be honest. Just the fans went nuts. Everyone drove up from Netanya to Haifa. It was literally like half the stadium orange and half the stadium yellow and black. It was really cool experience there. But so we lose the final. The next weekend, last game of the season, we play against Maccabi Haifa. If we win, we would have got second place, Europa League. They definitely wouldn't let me go or anything. I mean, I wasn't even on the table at the time. But we lose that game, last minute of the game. Guy scores a banger free kick, just like craziness, upper V. It's like, Oh my gosh, if doesn't score that, we tie at least, and we still move on to Europa League. But yeah, he makes it, and we lose. We get fourth place, no Europa League qualification, no nothing, no cup, no nothing. We're like literally in like a week, we went from being on the highest high to the lowest low. And then I got another call from my agents. They were like, "Oh, Chicago's still interested." And so at that time, just based on like what happened with my contract in Israel, it was going to be automatically renewed. So I was like, oh, okay, well, at least, I can stay and, we can try and do it all again. But then the club was like, well, if they're still interested, blah, 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 all this stuff. And we started talking and thanks to God that Netanya was willing to let me go, even like on a free, just based on the fact, like, okay, my contract was going to go up. They were going to save a lot of money, a lot of things with taxes and whatnot for them. So they let me go. And then I found myself coming to Chicago out of nowhere where I thought it was impossible. It happened. And so I'm really excited and happy that it happened, because it was time to come back to the States, time to be back in this culture. And, I'm really excited that my family is now able to be growing up, my girls and my wife, learning American culture. It's been something that I've been missing for so long, just living outside the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're really happy here. And it's hopefully I keep saying I want to play till I'm 40. So hopefully that can happen. And we have a few more years here in the States for sure.
For sure. I mean, you've had an incredible club career, lived in 3 different countries, experienced different cultures, played for 3 different clubs. But in your experience, what separates a really successful club from other clubs? Is it club leadership, club culture, management, coaching? What's the key?
I think all the 4 things you just mentioned right there are huge for any club.
Yeah.
You always need good leaders. You always need guys who are just like a leader as the coaching staff, but also like leaders on the team. Always need those, just because you're always going to have, especially nowadays, soccer is getting so young. You have these like super talented young players when they're 15, 16, instead of when I grew up, you get recruited to college. Now they're just getting recruited straight to like a first team,
it's crazy.
Professional team. Yeah. And you're seeing it all over the world. So it's really important to have those leaders who can then now show them the ropes and show them, how it is in this life as being a professional soccer player, the discipline, the sacrifice, coming in daily to try to get better, all those kind of things. There's so many little, not like bullets we could talk about, but so that's really important. Obviously the upper management and like building the culture of the club, that is, vital for any club. I think not just in the MLS, but around the world. You see these owners and these presidents who do a really good job of first recruiting and bringing in the right players, but also kind of like instilling all these values and ethics into the players, which really helps also. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where Chicago Fire right now is in like a growing period. Obviously we've got a lot of new owner, new directives, new upper management, new coach, new players, new everything. So and then COVID hits, and they're not excuses at all for anything. But I think it's really exciting to be part of all this growth that's happening here in Chicago Fire, and I'm happy that they kind of look at me as a leader within the team, because I have all that experience from playing in the countries I have, and I'm just trying to try and help my teammates out as best I can in any role possible. At the same time, extending my career to as long as I can. So I'm really excited for all these things. But I think, and to answer your question, I think all the things you mentioned are vital to any club success, and any, and for a player to have success, obviously it's better for the club to be having success and be part of all that. So I've been lucky to be able to be at clubs where we've had some success, and just kind of kept riding that wave that I talked about at the beginning. Yeah.
Now just shifting over to your international career, when was the first time you got the call to represent your country, and what was that feeling like for you? Do you remember getting that call?
I do remember getting that call. That was exciting, man. That was it had to be within, I don't remember the exact date, but I know the 2006 season was over and it was still in 2006. So it had to be in November, December when that call came in. I remember I was sitting in my living room. I actually, at that time, I still lived with my brother, one of my best friends, and we had another roommate who we lived with. We had this really cool, like, half of a, the one of the duplexes in a duplex,
Yeah.
and we were still living in Los Alamitos, which is where I grew up. And I remember we were just sitting in our living room. I think we were watching Entourage, to be honest, and just sitting there watching Entourage, and my phone rings, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, and so I answer it, and they're like, yeah, this is so and so with the U.S. national team. Just letting you know you're being called into the January national team camp, which will be starting January 3rd. And then they're like, oh, we'll be emailing you or more information, but congratulations, blah blah. And then it comes out like in the press release where they give out the roster stuff, all within the press. And so, but I just remember thinking, man, this is really happening. I'm like looking around at my buddies, my brother,
Is this
like,
real?
is this? I just got a call from the national team. I'm going to be representing, at least in the camp in January with the national team, which was, yeah, I don't even know. I probably still seem so excited from that day. So, yeah, it was a really cool moment. Something I thought never would happen, but yeah, it was cool.
You scored your first international goal in your first cap, didn't you?
Yeah, in my first cap, first goal. That was an amazing story. Yeah, so I mean, I got super lucky too. I grew up in Southern California, always got to go to school in Southern California, went to college in Southern California, and then got to play for the Southern California professional team with Chivas USA. And then I get so lucky that also my first cap is going to be at the Home Depot Center in Southern California in front of my family. Right? Like I never even had to leave. Like, good thing I got my license when I did,
right?
because that really helped. That when I never had to, didn't have to get my pilot's license to go anywhere. So just needed my driver's license. Yeah. So then had my whole family there at the game. I think I had like 60 people there for that first national team game of mine against Denmark, and that goal that I scored, you can, if you like really draw it up on a board, Justin Mapp steals the ball from, I think, their right midfielder and dribbles across the entire field. He pretty much he was playing in front of me at left mid, stole the ball, dribbled to basically be a right mid. And so when he's like dicing up all these people, he probably beat like 5, 6, 7 players on the whole play. Basically this amazing run. And I just kind of followed from the like outside left, just like kept going. He's coming like through here, all the way to the right. And I just kept following, and found myself in the box, in like the 6-yard box at the right post, like the right side of the post. So our right midfielder our left midfielder and our left fullback are like within the confines of the little box, like the little 6-yard box. And he crosses it over and I put it in first time. And then we go celebrate in the right corner flag. So it was like, we definitely both shouldn't have been there.
Right.
Yeah, you got to go watch it again. And now you draw it up. It's like, Dad, what are you doing going into the box at that time? But whatever. So I just did it, took the chance. And yeah, it's now a great story. And it was fun to have my family there. My dad actually, he passed away about 5 or 6 years ago. And I can still see his face when I was running over to give him my jersey for my first national team game, which was extremely special. And there's a cool little video of my first cap of the national team on YouTube, and he's in there like so excited. You can just see his face, and that's kind of why I play soccer. Just my whole entire career, he was my first coach. He was always the one supporting me when he could and however he could. I loved seeing him show up in his work outfit just to games, and I look over the corner and, oh, you made it, when I was a little kid. And he'd just be over there, and then we would go out, just have to go straight back to work just because he like took 30 minutes to go watch me play just for that little section. So just thinking about that, I want to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, I was just actually watching that YouTube video before this, and yeah, I saw afterwards you go and say hi to your family, and Bob Bradley afterwards is like, man, you took like, everyone's gone in the locker room. Everyone had left.
Yeah, if you really listen to what he says, it's kind of like hushed a little bit. He's like, this guy, because he played with me for an entire year at Chivas.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're in that same stadium every game. And I always had my entire family. We're all from Southern California pretty much. And so literally always every game I have like 50 or 60 people in section 107. And so every game I go over and I say hi to whoever came, and I would always be the last person in the locker room. And so Bob actually says, like, because he knows me, he's like, look, this guy coming in again. He's like, he's always like, I don't know the exact words, but he's like, he's always out there kissing babies and signing autographs, taking photos. And it's true. It's like I always went over and gave love to those who came to support me because it's so important. They're there to see you, and I always wanted to give back however I could. And so it's amazing. But yeah, that was funny. That Bob, that was so funny. I love watching that part of the video.
Well, what did your dad do for a living?
So my dad he worked for Millbrook Bread, which originally was Weber's Bread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't even know if where are you from originally? You're from
Dallas.
East Coast. Oh, Dallas. Okay, I don't know if you guys had Weber's and Millbrook. It'd be like.
I'm not sure if we did or not. That doesn't sound very familiar.
Yeah, so Weber's, Millbrook, and then Hostess bought them out. So Hostess,
like
Twinkies and all that stuff. Yeah. So he worked for those three companies, but as a delivery truck driver. So he would deliver from his depot to the stores, supermarkets, liquor stores, gas stations, all that kind of stuff. Not easy work. I mean, he's always like on his knees and always on, early hours for those guys because you got to get all this product in for before the supermarkets open, for all those places open. So he was gone by like 2:30 in the morning.
No way. What?
Yeah. Just, I think he did it more for him to beat like all the other guys there. And it helped because he got like to a supervisor position, but still was always out in the field and doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, extremely hard worker. Never called in sick. I mean, never. I don't remember him ever missing a day, which is where I get my hard work. And
sure,
I don't think I've ever missed a day, to be honest. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's kind of. I left that out in the qualities that you asked me about. Yeah, consistency and hard work. I mean, he taught me more than anyone that hard work is the number one thing about having success. So whatever it is, he wasn't in like this super high earning job or anything, but he gave it his all. And, definitely was a great role model for myself and my brothers.
Yep.
And, it was sad to see him pass, but yeah. So I still even think if he were like, would he believe that I'm still even playing at 35? Which is,
I know, right?
Always cool. Which is always cool to think about because, I mean, not many players make it that far, and I'm very lucky to be going.
For sure. I mean, hey, I'm sorry to hear about that, by the way, and I mean, you're definitely making him proud. I mean, I'm sure he's looking down on you right now. Very proud. So I'm sorry to hear
thank you.
That. Mm-hmm. Well, 2 years later, in 2009, after your first goal and first cap, you scored the biggest goal in Honduras history as you headed home the equalizer against Costa Rica in the 5th minute of injury time. Can you just explain to everyone what I'm talking about right here?
Crazy story. I mean, Honduras wasn't even playing in the game. So
I know.
If anyone who doesn't know what happened already, I mean, it was a game against Costa Rica.
Yep.
So 95th minute, we're losing 3-1, or what is it, 2-1?
2-1, yeah.
And we had already qualified for the World Cup.
Yep.
Beating Honduras in Honduras like a few days before that. So we knew we were going to the World Cup, but if we had lost that game, we would have probably gone in second place behind Mexico, or maybe even, I didn't do the numbers ever, but maybe behind Costa Rica also.
Yeah.
But by scoring in that 95th minute, it sent the U.S. in first place from the CONCACAF region. And little did I know, nobody knew, I don't think at the time, but that goal also eliminated Costa Rica from immediate World Cup. They had to go play in like a play-in game, I believe, against Uruguay.
Yep.
And then it sent Honduras to the World Cup automatically for the first time in, I think, like 28 years. So that one goal affected the livelihood of 3 countries. And who could have ever thunk it? You know, like that was
No.
great. Yeah.
And
So
are you, I heard, I mean, you're a celebrity in Honduras. Is that true that you were invited to Honduras by the president?
like literally the next day, or maybe it was right after the goal. I think I was in the press conference. I can remember our press, Michael Cameraman, the guy who for the U.S. Soccer Federation, coming up to me like, "Hey, the president of Honduras has invited you to the country."
No way.
And I was like, "What do you think about that?" And I was like, "What? Really?" I didn't know. And unfortunately, I never was able to take him up on the offer because we were gonna. I remember we were gonna go down with like a documentary crew in right after the World Cup from like in December, before I was gonna be heading over to Tigres in Mexico.
Yeah.
But because like Portland got my rights from Chivas USA after I had already been leaving. So I guess they traded for, I don't know, allocation money
Yep.
or maybe a player. Tigres was like super scared. They were like, "What's going on?" I thought he was coming here. How is he going to Portland? They didn't understand that it was only my rights if I were to ever come back into the MLS.
Yep.
And so they got scared, and I was on a cruise with my family in the Bahamas in November, and I remember getting all these, like, pulling into a port and having just like all these missed calls, you know, just like voicemails. And I'm like, "What's going on?" Listen to the first one, they're like, "Yeah, you got to come back. Tigres is flipping out. They really want you just to come in now, like December 1st, December 2nd, if you can, instead of it being in 2011 when your contract starts." So I remember being like, "Well, I'm on a cruise. Unless you're gonna send me like a helicopter to this boat or something, you got to wait at least until like December 2nd when I can fly back to LA, and then get all my stuff together and go to Mexico." So that was kind of crazy. I mean, but long story short, we had to cancel the Honduras trip also, which was going to be like December 7th to the 15th or something. So didn't ever get to take up the president on his offer.
Damn, that would have been,
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been so cool if they had made a documentary about that.
Sweet, I thought. I mean, I imagined it in my head. You know, it was going down there, doing some camps with little kids, talking about soccer, talking about, you know, how it's good to study in school and stay all that stuff. And then, you know, go onto the beaches and kind of like talk to people, go into the cities and see like, "Oh, you know, how was it? You know, just what was your reaction?" and stuff like that. So it would have been really cool to do that. Maybe, you know, it's still up in the air. I mean, I still get constant, love from the Honduran people. Definitely every anniversary, but also like on social media throughout the year, just like, "Hey, thank you again for that goal. It's so cool." I love how the people just keep it alive, and it's a great memory.
That's so cool, Elliot, dude. They're still keeping in contact with you. Do you plan on going there at some point?
Yeah, I would love to. I think like 2 weeks ago, a guy actually, he's like, "My dad owns a great hotel here in Roatan." He's like, "I want you to," that guy, he invited me to go to his hotel and my family to the hotel.
Wow.
He's like, "Yeah, you know, come on down. We can do this." So, I mean, invitations have still been thrown out there even recently. So, yeah.
Wild.
But definitely plan on going there. I would love to make a trip out there and see the country. And
Mm-hmm.
I've heard so many great things about it. So, yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
cool to have a little vacation down there.
for sure. So
Yeah.
you qualify for the 2010 World Cup, and you were obviously included in the squad by Bob Bradley. Did you and Bob have a close relationship? I mean, he always seemed to appreciate you as a player, even from, the very beginning of your career.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm so thankful to him, and you know how he developed me as a player, as a left fullback, as a young man too.
Yep.
I definitely looked up to him, still do. Our relationship wasn't like, I don't know if he obviously had a great relationship with Jesse Marsh and Ante Razov and his original players who he coached and are now doing great things coaching and stuff. But our relationship was a little bit different. I mean, he was just always there for me, helping me develop. Obviously, always bringing me to the national team, gave me so much confidence to play the style of play that I could and I did. So we had a great relationship. still do. I saw him in Orlando and we talked for a little bit. It
Nice.
was the first time I had spoken with him since probably the 2011 game against Mexico
Mm-hmm.
in the Rose Bowl where we lost in the final, which happened to be my last game on the national team. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was a bummer. But yeah, I'm still hoping to go back. I'm
Yeah.
still like,
Hey, maybe.
I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still playing. Give me another chance.
I know.
So at least one game to go out on top. Like, maybe I'll be the one player like biggest time between appearances with the national team.
Set a record.
I'll get that stat. Like, come on, guys, help me out here. So yeah, but we had a good relationship. Yeah, to answer your question.
And I mean, just as a coach, I mean, I know you've played for a lot of managers in your career, but what's special or different about Bob? What does he do really well?
I mean, he just studies the game so well. I feel like from my time with him, my first season, to my time with him for the last game at the national team, I saw him grow just like by leaps and bounds.
Yep.
I mean, I think, and a lot of the guys would say that he just keeps learning the game and he keeps learning new things about how his teams can be better. Whereas a lot of coaches just, they find their little niche in the game and how to train. And I think he just keeps adapting. I think that's his biggest thing is he just keeps studying the game, studying what's new, studying how to get better, studying new techniques, new technology. I think he stays up to date with all of that and finds a great way of how to implement all that into his coaching style. So I think that's his biggest, like the best thing about him as a coach, and which is great because he's constantly changing his style too. So it's so cool to see that.
And what were the team goals for that 2010 World Cup? What did you guys want to achieve? Were there 2-3 team objectives before you guys headed there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think everyone wanted to go as far as we could.
Right.
Our first goal was to win the group. That was what we were talking about all the time. Like, it wasn't even get out of group. It was let's win this group. That was like ingrained in us from the beginning. And then obviously it was like, okay, go as far as we can. If not, win it. I mean, win it is like the goal, but you also got to be, conscious of the fact that the U.S. has never won it and we've never really gotten so far. But so it was like, let's get as far as we can and then go on to win it. And so that was those were the immediate goals. And, obviously we left it all out on the field every single game. That Ghana game could have gone either way at a lot of different points in that game. So, we almost got there, and then we probably would have had a really good chance against Uruguay going forward through that game. So, you can always say what if, but yeah, we left it out there. That's what
Absolutely.
we did.
And I know you weren't on the coaching staff, but how do you think that team was built and assembled? What was the identity the coaching staff was going for? What was the strategy there?
Oh man, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to answer that. I think they wanted a good combination of like we had spoken about the leaders on the team, guys who had a lot of experience with the national team, and then combining that with a lot of younger players who had experience playing with through qualifying and stuff, but who were new to a World Cup and new to kind of like the highest level. So I think they did a really good job with guys in the back with like our captain Bocanegra, Oguchi even Demerit at that point was a little bit older, and Tim Howard, Chirundolo, and then you combine that with players like myself, Benny, Stu, Charlie, Josie, Michael Bradley. So now you got these like two different kind of like age group kind of guys with experience, and then the young kind of up and coming. So they had a really good balance of that on the team, and maybe that's what they wanted. I couldn't tell you exactly, like you said, I wasn't on the coaching staff, but I think that was a big help to us
Right.
to build this great team.
Well, the first two games against England and Slovenia, Bob started with the same backline, neither of which you were included in. So, Steve on the right, Demerit and Gooch in the middle, and Bocanegra on the left. But then you started in the next two games against Algeria and Ghana in the round of 16. And then, Anyewu was benched. Bocanegra moved to center back, and you came in at left back. What did Bob tell you before he released that starting lineup for the Algeria game? Did you expect to start in both of those games?
So if you go back to the first game, he had come up to me and he had told me, like, I'm going to start Bocanegra at left back. I think, he's got a little bit more experience. I think I can't remember which, there was a really fast guy on the right, the exact name.
Aaron Lennon.
Yeah, it was Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, Bocanegra actually played against him probably in England. Yeah, he knows him. He just, that's what he told me. He's like, he's got the experience, and I just want to play Bocanegra at left back this game. So I said, what am I going to say? Awesome. But it was obviously his way of telling me was like, look, I want to put you out on the field, but I just think it's better for the team. And so I always want what's best for the team also. And so that's exactly what was said and done. And so then, I thought maybe for the second game I would start, but then I didn't. The team did do well against England, and then so whatever. And then the third game, he kind of mixed things up a little bit. I found myself on the field. I was extremely happy. I always expected to be playing every game, and I still do.
Right.
But you also got to be conscious of the fact that you're not, as a player, you're not going to play every single game, and sometimes the decision goes against you. And you're going to have to use that to make yourself better and keep working hard, and not like the opposite where you let your attitude go down the toilet and, put your head down. So
right, yep.
I learned that from a very young age where got to just keep going, got to keep proving yourself. And that was same instances, I didn't get in the first two games, but I remember training extremely hard in the training sessions that we had with the reserves and stuff. And, you never know what moment it was that they're like, no, we want to put him in. So it's always done that by hard work. And I was excited to be playing in the World Cup. And my first game was Algeria, which is also a super famous game for the United States soccer team. What an amazing finish to that game. Just to be a part of that celebration and that moment, we'll never, ever get tired of watching it and being a part of it. So it was special. And even the Ghana game, I felt like it was probably one of, I've had a few really good defensive games in my career, but I felt for me, it was like no attacking and all just defending and shutting their guy down. And I feel like it was truly one of my best defensive games that I've had in my career from when I look back on it. And so it was really, really, really cool, really good experience. Obviously everybody wants to play in a World Cup, but to say it is one thing, and to finally have the opportunity and to have earned it and done it, it's just a dream come true.
Hey, seriously, the World Cup is it's one of those, it chills down the spine events. Like, how did you feel standing on the field during the national anthem against Algeria, representing your country on the biggest stage? Do you remember that moment, or are you just, hyper focused on the game?
That moment is actually like what stands out in my mind the most about the World Cup.
Yeah.
Standing on the field, being at the, listening to the national anthem. Obviously, like in the MLS, you get the national anthem before each game, but to be representing your country at the tournament where it's the biggest tournament for any, national team in the world. Yeah, I remember just getting, chills down my arms, down my legs. And then also just being like so amped to go after the song finished. Just like, this is it. I just heard it. This is what I'm representing. Let's go do it. So that was really just like a moment that sticks out in my head for both of those games that I participated in.
Just while we're on that, the subject of that Algeria game, just wanted to talk about that moment, Landon's goal. I know that you were subbed out in the 81st minute, so I'm curious to hear the perspective from the bench. Can you just talk me through that moment when the ball hit the back of the net?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's always different than like if you're on the bench when the game starts and you don't go in and you're on the bench. But
Yeah.
and it's always been different for me in my career when I've been on the field and come off, and then you're on the bench. You always like all this adrenaline is going through you, and you want the, you're still like feeling like you're in the game. And so for me, it was as if I had been on the field almost, just like all that. Come 80 minutes of playing, and then now you're watching it, but you're still like in it, which is, for me at least, has been different. If I didn't start the game and I'm on the bench, I'm watching the game, but you don't have the feel of how it's going. So we'll just start with that. So it was as if I were in the game.
I know, right?
and when Tim Howard gets the ball and he throws it out to Landon, it's like I felt like I was still making a run down the side of the field. And to be honest, we actually were, because literally he scores and we're all there to like
Right, yeah.
jump on him. So the whole bench was like on their feet, screaming. I think we're all starting to like go toward the corner flag, and especially when Dempsey gets that first chance, we were already like celebrating. And then it like pops at the land and he actually puts it away, and we all just took off to the corner flag. Even my celebration for the goal against Costa Rica was like that. The whole team went to the corner flag and we all dogpiled each other. And so, yeah, that was kind of a signature celebration for the team. And yeah, it was such a great moment to be a part of. But I remember just like sprinting over to try to be part of the dog pile and get a good spot in there. You never want to be too low. You don't want to be too low, but you want to be in there to be part of it. And so, yeah.
Man,
it was fun.
No, I'll remember that moment for the rest of my life. I can't even imagine like being involved in that. That is such a special moment. I think that will be the most special moment, probably in American soccer history. And the fact that you were involved in that is so incredible,
Oh yeah. I think, at least within the last few years, it's definitely one of the best moments in U.S. soccer. So yeah, it was great to be a part of it. Yep. Definitely one of the best moments of my career.
Right.
Hands down. Like I said, I wasn't on the field at that exact time, but still feel like such a big part of that moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And
just so proud of my teammates who were on the field. Proud of Donovan, all the guys who were part of the play. Yeah, it was a quality side we had, and bummer we lost the way we did. But no one can take away what we did and what we worked for the the time before that tournament. So It was really cool to be able to talk about it now.
And when I talked with 3 of your teammates from that team, they all emphasized the chemistry and camaraderie among the group. How much did you enjoy playing in that back four with Steve, Jay, and Los?
No, it was great. Like they said, the camaraderie is such a underrated thing in a team. I think teams who can become really close, create a tight group where it's like there's not a lot of bickering between players and not a lot of, but at the same time, you're like pushing each other to do great things. I think those are the best teams. And it always I don't feel like it came from me on that team. I was more like a reactive player because the older players were the ones kind of instilling that leadership role and those kind of ideas. Like, guys, you gotta, be tight, they use so many examples, but yeah, it was really cool to be a part of that and to learn that is what it takes to be a good team. So, yeah, I think that part of obviously the camaraderie we just talked about, but what term did you use? The second term you used? The
chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah. No, the chemistry is also a huge thing that you can't teach to a team. So who even knows how you build that? Maybe Bob has the secret and just never taught, vocally told it to us, and he creates that chemistry. But yeah, we definitely had some good chemistry, and I think it's always looking back on it now. you can see on the field when like I rewatch the games, it's like, all right, so even though I think I'm a better player now, like I was fit into that team in a certain way that I could never even imagine. And so, you know, when I watch the games, I look at, I'm like, I could have done so much better. Like nowadays, I'm such a smarter player.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, that's not what we needed at that time. And that's not what was going on. And so I think I fit in, like, when we're speaking about chemistry, I fit into that team in the way I did. So Bob did a great job of choosing all the players to find the right chemistry between all of us. And it's, you know, it's a testament to him, the way he did that.
In talking with, you know, the guys from that 2010 team, I've been struck by how smart that team was. I mean, clearly, you know, good players, talented guys, competitors, warriors, but also super smart guys who truly think the game. Was that your impression as well?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you got guys, a lot of the guys now literally being paid to talk about the game.
I know.
You know, from that team. And so you look at it and you're like, at the time there were those conversations going on the tables, and even Bob would always talk about it. He's like, I remember my rookie year, him talking about too many guys at the dinner tables are talking about social media and all these things. You know, you think the Juventus table or AC Milan table from the 90s, they were talking about social media, like things like that, you know, like using their phones at the dinner table. No way, they were using like salt shakers to like move around plays on the field and talk soccer and intellectual. And so we literally started having those type of conversations at our dinner tables and at our lunch tables, between groups of players and talking the game. And so I think, like you said, we just had a lot of intellectually smart players in general, but then it transfers over to being intellectually smart on the field. And that always will help a team in, you know, the best way possible. And like I said, now you're seeing a lot of those guys actually analyzing and talking about soccer on ESPN, on Fox, on, you know, on all those media channels for soccer or for sports. And so it's great to see them out there. I love listening to those guys talk about the game. I think that's something also that's lacked in America is the announcing from the 90s and, you know, through the 2000s. And so now we're getting, you know, quality national team players who have experienced it and done it, and now they're talking about it. So it's really cool to see.
Is that, I don't know if you've given it any thought or not, is that something that you might want to do after you retire and analyzing, you know, soccer games?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I never even thought about what that would entail or anything.
Yeah.
I did one high school soccer game when I was pretty young. I think I was in college. I came back to do a high school playoff game and talk about. And I was actually with that accountant. That guy invited.
Oh
me.
yeah.
Yeah, Sammy. And so we did it together to do because he would do our Los Alamitos high school games.
Okay.
Him and at least the playoff games. So he invited me on as a guest. So I did one time do commentating, but yeah, it would be a fun job. I think, you know, obviously I don't know what it entails, all the hard work that goes behind the scenes and all the preparation, but you know, like as a soccer player, no one really knows outside what goes on. So it's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice. So I would assume the same kind of characteristics would go into something like that also. And so I definitely know how to do those things, which, you know, would transfer over, I think, to most jobs in general. So, you know, I like to think we chose soccer because it was the hardest thing for us to do, for us players to make it. There's so much competition. So to then transfer into the real world, I think you have a lot of great qualities from what you learned to make it so far that can transfer over to the business world, to anything else. And so, you know, a lot of the smarts that you talked about on the you know, from the guys, I think it carries over to everyday life, and any of us could do a handful of things to be successful. So yeah,
I agree. If you were, or first of all, just what was it like to play with Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey? I mean, what about those guys made them so special as players? What did you appreciate about them?
Yeah, I mean, besides them being like these super talented technical players. You know, they both had just drive and grit.
Yeah.
Like that was what impressed me the most. Is even though they were considered the best, you know, like ball strikers and all that stuff, their work ethic was beyond what anyone even expected of them. You know, and
Yep.
most people when they, you know, get that good and you know, they're considered that good, they kind of like drop off and like get lazy on the field. But both of those guys, they didn't, and they were great role models in that in that sense. And so yeah, that's what impressed me most about both of those guys, and that's what I learned from them, and I still try to do that for all, you know, for myself, and be that example for all the young players. You know, just grind it out. Be that guy who will run harder than anyone and want it more than anyone.
If you were picking teams down at the local park for a pickup game, who you picking first, Donovan or Dempsey?
That's funny. That's a tough one. Man. Oh. I mean, I'll go with Donovan. Yeah, I'll go with Donovan. I don't know. I don't know if I'm coming up with a reason.
Yeah, just leave it at that.
Dempsey will be my second pick. So.
And, you know, just kind of looking, you know, I know U.S. soccer, you know, it's definitely grown, you know, from a popularity standpoint and, you know, in terms of producing players. But in your opinion, where is U.S. soccer today on a scale of 0 to 10? And what can we do to get better?
Yeah, I mean, that's a super hard question just because in terms of talent, I feel like we're high up there in those numbers. You know, I mean, we got guys playing at the best clubs that they've ever had U.S. soccer players playing at.
Yep.
You know, and guys getting experience in Champions League and against the best teams in the world. And so you would think like that would transfer over to the national team being at a very high level at this exact moment. But obviously, a lot of that's happened recently, and COVID hasn't really helped that at all to get the national team going again and see the level that we could be at. But yeah, I think in general terms, I would say like the team is at like 6 or 5, 6, because you know, if you compare it to where we were, you know, having success in the World Cup, even in 2014, they had
on the ranking scale. So it's definitely in a rebuilding period, and I think there's huge potential for the national team. So I hope that we can say in a few years that number is up to like an 8, 9, because I think we have the talent, young talent, maybe like need a to combine leadership, older players' experience with those young guys coming up and making an impact. So, you know, obviously we talked about that between what what was so great about the 2010 team, that balance. And so, yeah, hopefully they can define the right mix and get this ball rolling for the national team very quickly.
I feel like U.S. coaches focus heavily on size. I mean, you know, but then you look at that 2010 team, you know, you're 5'9", Steve Cherundolo's 5'6", Benny's 5'9", Robbie Finley's 5'9", Landon 5'8". You know, but at some levels, there seems to be an obsession with recruiting big guys. You know, like the bigger, the better. You know, maybe that's happening all over the world, but it's happening in the States, especially at the college level. Do you agree or disagree?
I would agree with that part about at the college level, just because I think that's like that American mindset, like the bigger the better. You know, that's why I have such big meals and big everything. I mean, like everything's so big here.
I know.
You go outside of here, and it's not always such a like a mindset of big, you know. And so I think, but it's definitely not true not for soccer at least, you know, that bigger is better. I mean, I like
Agreed.
Maybe like the bigger the mind, the bigger the drive, the bigger the heart, you know, but not like the bigger the size, because soccer is not a sport where always the bigger guy is going to be the better guy. So obviously like basketball, bigger can be better. I'm like at 5'9", I'm not going to be competing very well with these guys that are 6'9", you know, so not when we're using our hands. And so, yeah, so I think it has been a mindset just instilled in us from very young, and I think in the culture of America. But I don't think it's very cohesive for soccer in terms of finding the best players.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you got to run. I just have a couple more questions for you, just to finish things off. So, who is the most skillful player you've ever played with?
I mean, I have to say Ronaldinho. I played with him in Querétaro. He
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
he would come out, and just there were instances where you're just like, wow, this guy's just magic, just another level. And so yeah, he's so super skillful. It's funny, my daughter's filming from another angle now with her iPad, so I'll send you some of the video from over here. If you need, yeah.
How much soccer do you watch on TV?
I mean, like I said, I grew up with not very much soccer on TV. As I've gotten older and throughout my career, I try and watch a lot more. But I still have that ingrained in me where it's not like it doesn't like dominate my life like it does a lot of other players. I watch a lot of my own games after they like tape pretty much on our games, because I like to kind of like analyze the game that was just played, try and get better from that. That also has improved throughout my career. The older I get, the more I like to watch tape. And then obviously I love watching like the biggest tournaments, Champions, Europa League. I watch a lot of Mexican soccer from having played there.
Yep.
Love watching like the cup games, the regular season games. So, I always say, I don't watch soccer at all, like I used to when I was young, but I do watch a lot of soccer nowadays. Yeah.
And just my last question here. I've been asking the guys this, but how much of your success do you attribute to hard work, and how much has been luck?
I've been a guy who, says he's lucky a lot, but I feel like you create your own luck through that hard work. Obviously, a lot of it comes down to being in the right place at the right time. But I feel like anytime you're working extremely hard and you're in the right place at the same time, you're giving yourself a bigger opportunity for success. And so that's kind of what I've always lived by. My motto has been like, work extremely hard, outwork the guy next to you. And then when the opportunity comes around, be ready and take advantage of it. So if you can, some people might call that luck, being in the right place at the right time. But if you hadn't prepared for it and you hadn't done the things to get to that point, then you wouldn't have been there to be lucky. So it's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't really even thought. That's a really good viewpoint on that. I haven't heard, none of the other guys have said that, so I like that. Well, that's all I have for you, Jonathan. Hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. We can do it again soon. This was a lot of fun.
Well, I had a lot of fun. I love talking about soccer, especially. Who doesn't like talking about their own career? Totally. All the memories always come back, and they're so vivid. But if I tried to do this without you talking to me, it would be so hard. So, it's really good to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. And good luck with the Fire this season. I will definitely be keeping an eye out for you in the Chicago Fire games. But thanks again, man, and hopefully we can do it again soon. Yeah,
it was great talking with you. Yeah.
All right, see you, Jonathan.
Thank you for bringing me on, and hope all your fans really enjoy the podcast.
Oh no, I'm sure they will. This has been one of the best interviews yet. I really mean that. So I really think they're gonna like it.
All right. Glad I got to be part of it. Glad we can do this together.
For sure. Thanks, Jonathan. Have a good night, man.
You're welcome. Yeah, talk to you later, Adam.
All right, bye. Bye.